Hello everyone, welcome back to the Movie Reviewers 100. My name is Scott, also known as Cineram, here on YouTube, and Scott Cineram on Facebook. I am a member of this collaboration channel. I do the reviews that appear on Thursdays. We have a new theme starting on Friday of each week. Our next theme is going to be on Christmas films, Christmas-related films. But of course, right now I'm wrapping up our tribute week for Paul Walker, the sadly recently deceased Paul Walker, who died in a car crash the Sunday after American Thanksgiving. Paul Walker's not an actor who I admired a lot. He didn't seem to have a lot of range, but from what I've read, clearly is a really nice guy. Worked hard, valued his family and friends, overall very decent chap. So it's sad that he's not going to be around anymore. I wanted to talk a little bit about, before I get to the movie I'm reviewing, which is, of course, Running Scared, directed by Kramer. I want to talk a little bit about Fast and Furious. In addition to that movie, he also had a film come out in the past year called Vehicle 19, another fast car-related thing. And it just sort of, I just wonder about, whether or not it's in good taste or not to continue making Fast and Furious movies at all. Obviously, Universal still wants to, because they make lots and lots of money from them. They're very, very popular. And I would expect a lot of the cast and crew also want to sort of continue on just because they have good working relationship and what have you. Trying to make another movie about people who drive like maniacs, very, very well, but still like maniacs, and risk, life and limb with every single time they take their wheels out. Just seems to leave a bad taste in my mouth right now. I'm not sure if I could ever enjoy watching another Fast and Furious movie again. Al, at the beginning of the week, talked about the original Fast and Furious movie. My favorites have been the third and the sixth one. It's going to be tough for me, really, to enjoy those. It's not like with... in The Crow, you had Brandon Lee accidentally getting shot by a prop gun, and I'm just trying to think of other examples of an actor actually dying. That was actually on the set, and Paul Walker wasn't actually shooting the film when he died. He was just out, driving with a friend. In fact, he wasn't even driving himself. He was in the passenger seat. His death. The circumstances of his death seem to echo the nature of his most popular movies in a rather unsettling way. They will end up making Fast and Furious 7. I'm hoping that they could at least, since they have shot about half of Paul Walker's scenes, what were to be his scenes, it would be nice if they included at least one scene from the footage. They managed to, rewrite the script in a way that allows him to appear just for one scene, rather than rework the entire script and leave him completely out of the next movie, or, as they've been talking about, possibly casting his brother as the character, or using body doubles or CGI to put his face on another actor. All that seems in pretty poor taste. It's not like you wouldn't notice a different actor playing the part. We're getting into Bela Lugosi and Plan 9 from Outer Space territory there. I remember watching Vanity Fair. This is really not the same tragic circumstances, but it's the same type of thing in which reality kind of intrudes in on a film. As most of you know, I'm a big fan of Reese Witherspoon, and of course I went to see a film that she was in about 9 years ago called Vanity Fair. She got pregnant during the shoot, and there are scenes in which, despite the fact that she is unmarried and supposedly sexually inexperienced, she's clearly pregnant. It just, does not work. It does not work at all for the film. Takes you right out of the reality of it. They sort of hid it in certain scenes, but other scenes they didn't even bother. And using the CGI faces and body doubles and casting his brother and what have you just seems like it just seems like it couldn't work. It would take me out of the film. It would probably take a lot of people out of the fantasy of what we're watching, because the movies are fantasies, Fast and Furious films. They're very, very unrealistic. They're escapism. And to have those reminders in there would be, unpleasant. Would not make for a very enjoyable viewing experience, at least not for me. So I know they're going to make another one. I'm hoping they'll have, you know, like I said, a little bit of the footage that they shot of him somewhere in there. But obviously the film, you know, needs a lot of rewriting in order to make it work just as a film itself, you know. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. Again, I'm not really sure that I'd even want to see it at this point. But the films that I wanted to, there are a couple of films of Paul Walker's that I wanted to talk about. We've had reviews of some good ones I like, particularly Into the Blue, I think is one of his better films. At least it's one of the better films that Jessica Alba has acted in. And by that I mean it's one of her better performances, more believable. It doesn't really have anything to do with the fact that she's walking around in a bikini for half the movie. She's just more convincingly natural in that film than she is in most others. And that's not even all the time. Paul Walker is basically giving more or less the same performance he does in a lot of his films. So that's what I sort of mean by the fact that I didn't feel that he had a lot of range. But there are a couple of movies that did seem to, you know, find some he did seem to have find some variation in his usual style of acting. And one of those is a movie that just came out a couple of, just like last week actually, here in Chicago. It was called Hours, and it's directed by a guy named Eric Heiserer. I think that's how you say his name, Heiserer. It's a very small type of film. It only got released in one theater here, and it's not even in our art house theater. It's just like the distributors go, well, we want to have it in one of the major multiplexes. That one, you know, just some random theater they picked to show, just the one theater in the whole city. But luckily, it wasn't too hard for me to get to. Ours is set in New Orleans in 2005. Paul Walker is taking his wife, played by Genesis Rodriguez, to the hospital where she's going to have their first child. But she's early. She's 5 weeks early. She's not due for another 5 weeks. And the baby is born premature. Luckily, it's okay otherwise, but there are some complications, and Paul Walker's wife dies due to those complications. So now it's just him and the baby. So he has to deal with the fact that his baby is premature and has to use a ventilator to breathe, and his wife is gone, and it's just he's got to take care of his child all by himself now. And then there's, of course, the added complication that Hurricane Katrina is just about to hit New Orleans. There's an evacuation of the hospital. There's a blackout. The power goes out. There's flooding. There's a big mess. And the hospital staff are trying to move everyone over to another hospital to take care of everyone. But there's this problem with Paul Walker's infant, and that is that this ventilator requires electricity in order to run. It can't run all on its own. The battery that's being used there doesn't last very long. It's faulty, I guess. It only lasts for about 3 minutes before it needs to be recharged. Luckily, Paul Walker is able to find a manual generator, which he can crank with his hand. But every time he does that, it only puts enough power in the battery running the ventilator to last for another 3 minutes. And the more he cranks it over and over and over again, the amount of power that the battery holds is actually reduced each time. So first it's 3 minutes, then it's about 2 minutes 50 seconds, then it's 2 minutes 30 seconds, and just kind of goes down from there. And he has to keep cranking it over and over again every 3 minutes in order to keep his baby breathing. So at one point, he looks around the hospital and he realizes that everyone is gone. No one is around anymore. They've all gone to this other hospital. There's a nurse that said she'd come back, and send more people to help him. But he doesn't know how long she'll be. He doesn't know. He has to look around for IV bags. There's a nutrient bag IV that he can hang from the little coat rack type deal, that they have in hospitals in order to keep his baby fed and healthy. But he can't go very far away from where the ventilator is at all. He has to stay close by. He can maybe run to the bathroom for a second and come back. But every 3 minutes, every 2.5 minutes or so, he's got to be there to crank that thing in order to keep the machine working. So hours pass, and after a while days pass, and he's frantically trying to figure out a way to contact someone to help him. Because he can't carry all this equipment out on its own, especially when the lower part of the hospital actually gets flooded. He looks around for a generator that will supply more power. Can't find one. It's just a big mess. And this whole time he's dealing with the fact that his wife is dead. and you know, he's just gotta, you know, stay focused and stay awake. He can't even take a nap or anything like that because he has to keep turning this crank. Really gets to be hard on him. And it's a good emotional movie. It's a really good performance from Paul Walker, and you know, this certainly is an indication that he was capable of more of just being the cocky, good-looking guy, you know, who is you know, eye candy for whatever, you know, film that he's playing, because that sort of seems like, you know, the common denominator in a lot of his films. You know, he's you know, heroic, you know, maybe a little bit desperate for the most part. Pretty cool, you know, pretty cool cat. And in this one, he's not all that smooth. He's pretty desperate, and he gets emotional a lot when he's trying to describe to his child about his mother, and he shows photographs to her, and you know, of the mother, you know, and the rest of his family, things like that. But he's basically got to keep himself company for the most part, because he's all on his own. Kind of reminds me of this movie that came out a few weeks ago with Robert Redford called All Is Lost, where he's stranded out in the middle of a boat. The difference being is that Robert Redford's, he's got a non-working boat that he's got to get to shore somehow, but he doesn't talk to himself. He doesn't talk at all, really. He just, you know, gets the business done over the course of 2 hours, you know, just does whatever he can to keep his boat afloat and stay alive. But Ours is a really good movie. It's pretty intense, actually. The movie that I wanted to review for the most, because I had seen it a couple years, of course, is Running Scared. Like I said, Wayne Kramer's the director of this. He did The Cooler with William H. Macy and Alec Baldwin. And he did an ensemble film after Running Scared called Crossing Over with Harrison Ford and Alice Eve and Jim Sturgis and a few other people. This one, Running Scared, is definitely his best movie, and it's a crazy movie. It's extremely aggressive cinematically. The movie starts off, and it's like it's going like this. Hey, I want to show you something. You want to see something cool? I want to show you something. Come here. Now come here a little closer. It's cool. You'll like it. Come here. A little bit closer. A little bit. Boom, 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 boom. That's what this movie does. It's just like, whoa, just hits you right away. One of the first scenes in the movie, Paul Walker and a bunch of other shady guys, gangster types. They're in a sleazy hotel room somewhere, you know, they're measuring out drugs, counting money, and all of a sudden 3 guys in ski masks burst in with shotguns and hold the place up. The guys got to give up their weapons, but then, you know, things get out of control. There's this big shootout, and one of the gangsters ends up pulling out a silver snub-nosed .38 and blasting away one of the guys in the ski masks. One of whom gets away, the other 2 are dead, but as it turns out these guys are all dirty cops. They find badges on them. They're like, oh great, we're in a lot of trouble. So the gangster takes the guns that they used to kill the cops, and he gives them to Paul Walker and says, you got to get rid of these right now. Just get rid of them, make sure that nobody will ever find them. You know, dump them in water, wherever. So that's left to Paul Walker. But instead of getting rid of them right away, what he does is he stashes them in the basement of his house. Now, what he doesn't realize is that his son's best friend is over, and they watch him in the basement stashing these guns in this little hideaway in his basement. And the kid, Paul Walker's son's best friend, is this Russian kid named Oleg, who's played by Cameron Bright. I'm sure you remember him from the 3rd X-Men movie, and from Birth, and from that one where Rebecca Romaine and Greg Kinnear are trying to genetically rebirth their child that died in an accident. He's kind of an odd-looking kid, a little bit creepy. He's got these large blue eyes and dark hair, just a little bit weird-looking. But yeah, he's had problems with his dad back at his house. They live next door. So he sneaks back into Paul Walker's house, grabs the little silver .38, and uses it to shoot his dad, basically, or the guy who's taking care of him, in the shoulder. And this causes huge amounts of problem, because now Paul Walker is running around looking for this kid who has this gun that can incriminate all of them for having killed these cops. And so the whole movie basically is the night where he's like running around, driving all over the place, trying to get his son to tell him where are all the secret places around town that you guys hide. I need to know this. I need to find this kid, you know, and make sure we get this gun back before anything really bad happens. Meanwhile, The one dirty cop that got away is played by Chazz Palminteri, and he blackmails them into paying him like $2 million, or else he'll turn them all in, he'll get the evidence. He's got a great line in the movie where he says, "You guys think that you're so tough because you're part of a mob. Well, I'm a part of the toughest mob of all. I'm the law." So it's clear that that guy is really not in it to seek justice or protect people. He's just, you know, a gangster with a badge. He's on the side of the side that always wins, especially if you play dirty. Paul Walker's wife is played by Vera Farmiga. Really, really like this actress a lot. And she has some adventures of her own, running around, you know, trying to protect her son and trying to, you know, do what she can to find Oleg. At one point, Oleg, when he's running around town trying to avoid people and getting into kinds of trouble, he gets abducted by a couple of child molesters, a man and a woman, you know, who have their home rigged with this room, basically, with this plastic on the floor, and there's all these, like, tools, knives, and things like that. You know, they've got a couple kids already, but they grab him as well. So he calls up Vera Farmiga, you know, from the cell phone in the that he finds in the house, and gets her over there to try and deal with the situation. It's crazy. I read somewhere that some of the plot lines, some of the characters that Cameron Bright, Oleg, the Russian kid, come into contact with are sort of inspired by fairy tales. You know, like Hansel and Gretel, stuff like that. And so I didn't really, I was sort of watching for that, trying to identify what they might have been based on, but I'm really not too sure about that. I looked up some of the trivia, you know, online about the film, but no one really seemed to, it was sort of a vague thing. It's sort of structured like a fairy tale where a kid hops from one shady character to another. He runs into a prostitute, he runs into a drug dealer, runs into this pimp with a white hat and suit and everything like that. So this sort of out there characters. Meanwhile, the cinematic style of this movie is just really, really crazy. A lot of wide angle shots, shoving the camera in people's faces, you know, camera zooming around this way and that. It's a very, very cinematically aggressive movie. Lots of fun. Really, really lots of fun film. And very, very bloody and violent. So yeah, it's a good time. I really like it a lot. It's a really, really cool movie. So that is my review for Paul Walker Week, for Running Scared, and a little bit on hours and what have you. Hope you liked it. Hope you check out the other guys' videos if you haven't already. We've got reviews of Joyride, Into the Blue, Fast and Furious, and I believe James did a review of Flags of Our Fathers, the Clint Eastwood World War II movie that Paul Walker had a small part in. We're doing Christmas movies starting tomorrow, Christmas-related films, so I hope you'll tune in for that. Be sure and stop by our Facebook page. The link is in the description below. You'll be able to comment on the videos if you're not part of Google Plus and what have you. Give us feedback, suggestions for the themes. Thanks very much for watching. See you again real soon.